In Iran, protests against the government there continuing to ramp up tonight. Human rights activists saying more than 500 people have been killed. Iran's regime is telling the U.S. not to intervene or strike the country, warning that a strike against Iran would open the doors to the country striking back against Israel and U.S. military bases in the area. NewsNation correspondent Libby Dean live at the White House with the very latest on this. Libby, what are we learning tonight?
Well, Natasha, new comments from President Trump, who says he's being briefed hourly on these protests in Iran as he weighs any potential action by the United States. And the president has made it incredibly clear in past days that he stands behind those protesters taking to the streets, as we've heard from those human rights groups as well, that say at least 538 people have died in that violence surrounding those demonstrations in Iran. And today, actually, Iran's parliament speaker with a warning saying that the U.S. and Israel will be, quote, legitimate targets if America strikes Iran. The president with a fiery response to that tonight.
We'll consider things targets that they wouldn't believe. If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. They won't even believe it. I have options that are so strong. So, I mean, if they did that, it'll be met with a very, very powerful force.
Now, following those remarks from President Trump just moments ago on Air Force One, the president said he did plan to speak with Elon Musk on the phone about getting more Starlink terminals into Iran after we know the internet has been in and out in that country. Now, President Trump is weighing his options here and was asked if Iran takes his threats seriously. But this wouldn't be the first time, of course, we've seen that action by President Trump in Iran, given those strikes on 3 nuclear sites. Facilities that we saw in Iran, all that taking place back in June. The president not very pleased with that question, saying that he should be taken seriously after we saw what took place in Venezuela a little over a week ago, Natasha.
Yeah, those strikes back in June. And meanwhile, Libby, the U.S. did strike ISIS targets elsewhere in the Middle East over the weekend. What are we tracking on that?
No new comments from the president on this tonight, but I do plan to ask him this if we get the chance when he returns here to the White House, Natasha. But these were large-scale strikes by the U.S. inside Syria. They were targeting ISIS, and this action is all in retaliation for that killing of 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers and their U.S. interpreter in Syria. That was a lone attack, or an attack rather, by a lone ISIS gunman. Now, what you're looking at on your screen, there's this video released by the United States Central Command where you can see the U.S. military aircrafts taking off, and then what you were seeing there is of course, these strikes on several ISIS targets, all that hitting inside Syria. We're waiting details for more on where specifically in Syria these strikes took place, who potentially was killed and how many. But this weekend strike is the second conducted by the U.S. and is part of this operation by the United States called Hawkeye Strike, which was launched after that ISIS gunman killed those American soldiers in Palmyra, where you're looking at on your screen there. And this first strike was actually back on December 19th, and nearly 70 strikes were launched inside central Syria. Now, back in November, the Syrian president, al-Shara, he was actually here at the White House, and we know the last strikes, the U.S. actually gave the Syrian government a heads up on that. There was some coordination there. And, of course, we know, Natasha, the president is returning here to the White House later this evening. That's another question for the president, if there was some kind of coordination between the United States and the Syrian government on these strikes on ISIS targets, like we saw, of course, with those first strikes on December 19th, that coordination between the two. So we'll see if we get an answer on that tonight, Natasha.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll be checking back with you. Libby Dean live at the White House tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.